See how it's all fluxed? Important thing to remember, win some, you lose some in the Babbitt game. Welcome back. We're going to continue working on this 1971 Meadows Gristmill. We're going to get some of the Babbitt bearings re-poured. Hope you enjoy it. I always add a little extra support because you do not want this coming loose in the middle of a pour, because you have to tear everything out and start all over. So that's something we don't want to happen. So we put a little safeguard on there to hopefully prevent that. All that does is just help our pouring putty stay right in the spot that we want it to. I'm just kind of shaping that so that it can bleed out past the bearing. We can trim it off nice and neat. Guess you could say let it pour wild. Same thing on this next bearing. I don't like that. You got to be real gentle because you don't want to force the put too far into the bearing, because it's going to mess up your pour on the bottom side. It's going to use some of it up. Don't want to do that. Don't take a whole lot, just enough. That tape gives it a little extra support. I poured this one when you wasn't looking. Now we're heating this one up. Pour it next. Important thing to remember when you're warming Babbitt is you want to keep it stirred up. You want to stir from the bottom up, because the heavier metals will go to the bottom. You'll be stuck with something on top. It needs to be mixed up. So stir it from the bottom like that. Keep it stirred up right up until the time you go to pour it. If you notice right here, the Babbitt did not flow all the way around and come out on the other side of the shaft because there was a cold spot on the bearing housing, and this is a thick spot on the bottom bearings. This particular one, it's real hard to get it heated up adequately, but that's what happens, and I wound up having to tear this one out and re-pour it again because it was not heated properly. Crank the blower a little bit, keep our forge fire alive until we get done. That sud also makes your putty not want to stick on the shaft. That's something else you have to deal with. And another thing is you have to be real careful when you're preheating, because you do not want to burn your tape up. Have to be real careful preheating. One thing we need to do before we heat that bearing is take this fan housing off and pack our Babbitt, or our Babbitt right on the inside of that bearing down here to keep the Babbitt from running out inside the mill. Corn. Make sure none went down in our bearing. Now I can see right down in behind there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap this putty right down in around there. Pack it in good so that that Babbitt will not run out down inside of the mill. Has to be completely sealed off down in there. That looks to be sealed off enough. Show you over here, when you're melting Babbitt, you want to skim all them impurities off just like that. You can see them there, they come up to the top and they float around. And make sure and get all them off. The report is This end bearing was not a good pour. You can see it was not hot enough. What happened was my torch started running out of gas. Just as I started heating this up, I thought, well, I'm gonna go with it and see what happens. Well, this is what happened. It just wasn't hot enough. The Babbitt didn't flow right. The next one up here, it looks great. It was a good pour on this center one. And the end one down here on this end of the mill, you see that spot right in the middle there? See that spot? That's a hot spot. And what happened was the bearing case was a little too hot in that one spot, and it made a little hot air bubble there. So we're gonna have to re-pour that one and re-pour this big one over here. But the good news is the center one here, we can leave it, and what I'll do is I'll pour one of these at a time, because we know that the shaft is in the perfect position. So I'll use that, make that work for us. This one will hold up the main shaft for the pouring of the opposite, and then we'll turn around and then pour the opposite after that, if that makes sense. So we'll just take one out at a time. Take this one out first, remove it, put the shaft back in and set it up, and leave that one in that bedstone so that it'll hold the shaft straight, and then we'll re-pour this one, take it apart again, and re-pour that one. So that's what we're gonna do. Win some, you lose some in the Babbitt game. Now I'm gonna begin the task of taking this Babbitt we poured back out so we can do everything all over again. One thing you can say about having to do this over is I got to test out the tenon compound to see how good the Babbitt adhered to the bearing housing, and I can say it done really good. Really tight on there. You can say we got to fully test out a new product. I don't know if you can see it glistening or not, but it's reacting to the heat. It's got kind of a sparkly look to it. See that? I'm going to spread it around now like I did last time. You can see with that heating tip, I got an even heat on my bearing. You can see how it's all fluxed, shiny. try something different here, melting the Babbitt. I found this little welding tip that I had and put it on the torch instead of that cutting tip. I already like it a whole lot better. I'm gonna see how long it takes to melt this Babbitt, but I like the way it heats the bearing housing. I don't know, we'll find out. I didn't like the way it didn't fill up even, but we'll see what it looks like, see how it looks like, see what it looks like underneath. This is way better than the last pour. There's a couple little lines in there where the base might have been a little hot, but overall it's solid as far as the shaft goes. I like it to be smoother than that. I think it'll hold up good. It's solid overall. There you can see that big old round hot spot over there, that big bubble on the back side of it. So we're gonna tear this out, prep it, re-pour it, and hope for the best second time around on this one, like the last one. A good even pour. It filled up even on both sides. Well, it's been a long day. It's 9 o'clock at night. I was in here a little after 7 this morning. Of course, I have went out a few times. Had to go get some oxygen and gas from my torch and go see the girls a few minutes and eat a bite of supper with them. But other than that, I've been in here all day. Got this last one poured and it filled up nice and even. It was heated just right. I don't want to pull it apart until it completely cools. So I'm going to go on to the house and go to bed and rest and get back in here early in the morning. Pull this apart. File down what's above the bearing housings. Level it up. Put the shims on. Put the top bearing caps on and pour them. When that's done, we'll be ready to dress stones.